Hi, I'm Dr. Natalie Gomes-Sale, and today I'm going to be doing that second part that I promised everybody about development and kind of when to seek further evaluation. I have to be honest and tell you guys this was something I struggled with, which is why it took me so long to do it. And I even actually consulted with a developmental pediatrician and a colleague in Jamaica to try and figure out how to word it and when to say. So, I mean, as we had spoken about previously, developmental milestones are rarely a range. And so depending on which developmental screening tool you use, you talk about the age at which most children will do something. This talk, I think I'm really going to do in terms of a really Jamaican perspective rather than an international perspective. And what I mean by that is this. Most of our further evaluation services, so most of our like hearing evaluation, specialized evaluations by like developmental pediatricians or psychoeducational assessments, or a lot of our treatments like occupational therapy and speech therapy, the waiting list for these things are really, really long. And so if we do identify a problem, we really want to identify the problem very early, because we know that if we want a hearing evaluation, it's months down the road. And then once we get a hearing evaluation, if we want to then do speech therapy, there's waiting lists for everything. So I think for me, what I have done is I have identified the things that you should be concerned with that you then go and seek specialized attention for. And what do I mean by specialized attention? I mean, you go to your pediatrician, who will then take your child as a whole, looking at all the developmental milestones across all 4 domains, looking at other behaviors to see if it's something to be concerned about. Because I do know that not everybody in our population goes to a pediatrician for their developmental stuff. Sometimes they go for their GP or they go to a clinic for their vaccines. So, I mean, if you see me look down every so often, it's because I have like really specific milestones at which we should be concerned about. So when I talk about these different milestones, these are things that you should be concerned about that you then need to bring up with your pediatrician. So if you haven't seen a pediatrician, you need to go and see one. And if you are to bring it up in your pediatrician's office so that we could do an evaluation, do the full developmental gambit, take a look at the background history, other behaviors, etc. So when to be concerned and go and seek further evaluation. So I would say one of the big ones is doesn't respond to noise. So at any age, if your child does not respond to noise, that is a big red flag. All right. And I would tell you, even if I have a little one in my office, if my moms tell me that they're concerned about their little one's hearing, or they're not so sure that their little one is hearing, even if I'm not sure or they respond to all of the noises and questions in the office, I always err on the side of caution. You guys know your kids way better than I do. I see them for 20 minutes, half an hour. So if you're concerned about that, if your mommy instincts or your daddy instincts are starting to shoot up a red flag, bring it up with your pediatrician. So that's the first one. Doesn't respond to noise at any age. Doesn't respond to their name by about 9 months. So we would expect them to turn or to smile or to laugh to their name by about 9 months. So if they're not doing that, that's a reason to bring it up to your pediatrician. We would expect by about a year that your little one is going to be doing mama, dada specifically, plus 2 other words, usually basic words like doggy, baba, grandma. And so if they're not doing that by a year, we get concerned. If they don't come when you call them, so you're calling their name and they're not turning around and running to you at a year, that's again something you bring up. And so not sitting up at 6 months. Most kids, something like 90% of kids will sit up by about 6 months. So if they're not doing that, that's a reason to come in and see me. If they're not walking by about 12 to 24 months, that is a reason to come and see me. If they're not doing like peekaboo or waving bye-bye by about 9 months. Social stuff. So they should really be smiling at about 6 weeks. If they're not smiling in response to, playing and interaction by about 2 months, that's something we worry about. We expect little ones to start making really good eye contact at about 9 months. So they're looking at you when you're talking to them. They're following you around the room with their eyes. And so if they're not doing it by 9 months, that's a concerning feature. and if they're not interested in other children. So at about 2 years, we do what's called parallel play, which is where I'm kind of checking out what you're doing and you're checking out what I'm doing, and we're not necessarily interactively playing, so we're not exchanging a toy back and forth, but we're doing the same thing next to each other. So I'm pushing a car because you're pushing a car, and it's jumping over something because you're having it jump over, or I'm feeding my dolly because you're feeding your dolly. And so that tends to happen at about 2. So if we are not interested in other kids, and when I say interested, I'm not just talking about they go over there and take away what they're playing with. I'm talking like watching them, seeing what they're doing, going over to them and smiling and wanting to interactively play with them. And the last take home point, because I know that, people may have wanted a more specific bam, 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 bam in terms of development, but the internet is out there and it does give a lot of cues. And my best advice for you is, if you are concerned, you've read online and you're concerned about anything, bring them to somebody that has training in development. So we do, as pediatricians, we do developmental screening. And in Jamaica, 6 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year, 18 months. At each of those visits, I'm going to be asking you about all the developmental domains. And if your mommy, your daddy instincts are shooting up that, you're watching other kids and they're not doing exactly what other kids are doing, or you've done some reading on the internet and you're a little concerned about what they are and are not doing, you are your child's advocate. You are the one you're the one that's to fight for them. You're the one to make sure that the answers that you're getting from your healthcare providers, hopefully specialists, are the ones that make you feel better. Yeah. So I hope this helps everybody. And remember, these are not like hard and fast rules. Again, if you're worried, you bring in at any time, but these are the things. If they're not doing them at the age that we've spoken about, you are to seek specialist intervention from a pediatrician, a developmental pediatrician, or somebody specialized in that. All right, guys, bye.